Hey guys, recently I reported around NIO diluting the shareholders because they raised more cash, namely $2 billion. And today I can actually report the opposite, so something positive. NIO is actually buying back some shares. And so I just shared this news here in the Patreon community that NIO just published an Form 6K, so an SEC filing, and NIO has published that they are buying back 1.4% in equity interest in NIO China. Just recently, we saw from some Chinese company filings that actually the authorized capital in some of these NIO China entities has been increased. So we didn't really know what was going on, but now with these filings, they point to that this was actually caused by the equity buyback of NIO. And the result is that upon completion of this equity repurchase, the company will hold 92.114% of the equity interests in NIO China. And this one is also super important. Connected with the equity interest repurchase by the capital subscription, NIO China strategic investors have duly waived their applicable minority shareholder rights, including preemptive rights. So what does it all mean? Well, you can go back all the way to my previous videos that I've done when NIO was bailed out by the local Hefei government. In 2019 and 2020, NIO was almost at the verge of bankruptcy until the Hefei government stepped in, and what they have done is they gave new money, new funds that were used, and in a complicated deal between these different shareholder structures of NIO listed in the Cayman Islands that you are invested in this VIE structure, as well as NIO in China as the mainland functionality. That has been kind of the vehicle for making those funds available. And what happened after, obviously, is the big rise in the NIO share prices. And initially, the government had a quite big stake in NIO for delivering these funds, I think around 15% in equity. But then over time, NIO started actually to buy back some of these shares, and now even doing that a step further. So some part of the 2 billion capital raise that recently has happened is now used here in order to buy back more equity. And so in a way, this is reversing the effect. So before, we've been diluted with our shares because there are new shares coming onto the market. So the float of shares available to trade is getting bigger. But now with this repurchase of the stake here in NIO China, that means for future revenue expectations, for future earnings, and possibly for future dividends, your stake in what to be expected of these will be larger than before. So from a shareholder perspective in NIO, this is great news because you're actually getting more back from the cake, and actually some of the previous dilution being used now here in order to increase your share of the equity. What is even more important here, I think, is that now the equity stake of the local government has become so small, below 8% in NIO, that actually they also waived their rights, like the minority stakeholder rights. And that means, for instance, NIO can now make more free decisions. So Li Bin and the management, they can go ahead without asking the local government for permission. Usually in the moment when they give the funds to a company that is struggling, obviously they secure some rights in order to have preferential rights or can decide how the funds are being used. And now NIO is fighting back kind of their position and negotiating that one back, and basically is now in the position that they can freely decide without the local government what to do in the future with, what they're going to do at the strategic level with the company and the cash and so on. And so to me, this indicates a strong negotiation position of Li Bin towards the government. In a way, it's a win-win position because the government gets back some of their investment, actually get back more than they have invested before. For them, it was a successful deal in the end. And possibly they want not to have this large influence in NIO and are happy to kind of sidestep a little bit. On the other hand, there is Li Bin, who is the largest shareholder in NIO. And of course, he also wants to secure his influence in the company, a larger share and chunk of the overall profits to come into the future. And so this is kind of a bullish outlook because Otherwise, why would he buy back this equity? Well, there are some more reasons that we can speculate about. One reason, and I think that's the major reason that I've just named, is that Li Bin is possibly in the views that it is better that the government has just a smaller stake and the company can operate more freely. Second, this one may actually help also on an international level in terms of regarding the delisting fear. I know of the Holding Foreign Companies Accountable Act, one of the provisions against Chinese companies is that they need to disclose whether or not they have any government in the company involved. And well, the rules only say they need to disclose that, so that's not a big issue actually, and it doesn't punish companies for having such a government involvement. But on the other hand, it really helps when you can tell the stakeholders or parties involved that the government is not playing a big role. For instance, they have no big power over to say where the company direction is going, which is now the case, and stuff like that. So basically, you can kind of minimize the effect on the government in NIO here, and thereby this also means that the scrutiny over political issues may be reduced, and that may help in the relations with the US. For example, if NIO would enter the US market, but also on the European side possibly. Another reason might be, and I'm not sure about the specifics, but possibly it can also help regarding the Hong Kong IPO. Maybe there are some barriers to which government involvement would cause additional troubles in order to get listed in Hong Kong. We'll see. Maybe that could be part also of the reasons why they're doing this now. And last but not least, you can also try to spin this into negative news. Maybe there is a disagreement between the local government and NIO about the direction, maybe some beef around the NIO park and the factory, and maybe NIO wants to go its own way and get rid of the government involvement there. But for me, that's rather unlikely. Why would the government agree then to sell off their equity and also drop those rights which they had previously? And also, I think, NIO might be just comfortable with having this really minor stake like it is right now. So still, the connection is there, which helps NIO on various levels in terms of that, for instance, local subsidies might be tuned and tweaked towards the needs of NIO in China. But I think that might be the perfect outcome like it is right now. More ownership for the rightful shareholders in NIO equity, like us, like Li Bin, and for future shareholders. This will actually also help bigger funds getting involved actually in NIO, I would say, because this helps to alleviate some of the fear and uncertainties around the government intervention in the stock and the company. So all in all, I would say this is good news. I'm not sure whether or not this will be regarded well by the markets today, but in a long-term perspective, think about future dividends and such. This should be really good news. And in a way, this means that my shares have become more valuable in NIO. Again, this is the opposite effect of dilution. And so, really smart strategic move in my views. But let me know in the comments what you think about that one. I'm looking forward to hear your thoughts, and then enjoy the weekend. Please smash a like, and as always, see you in the next one.